Hello, I am Commissioner Emma I. Darnell, Fulton County District 6. Welcome to Mighty Six Conversations. As you know, Conversations is a monthly information and communication program focusing on the sustainable community. The question we will address today during today's conversation is the meaning of economic inclusion and what is the relationship to unemployment and to hunger in this community. Let's talk about it. Joining me in today's conversation is Nathaniel Smith, who is the founder and Chief Equity Officer, CEO, for the Partnership for Southern Equity. Mr. Smith earned his Bachelor of Science degree in Urban Studies from Morehouse College and a Master of Science degree in Urban Policy and Analysis from the New School, located in New York City. Welcome back, Mr. Smith.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me again,
We're
Commissioner
so
Darnell.
pleased that your schedule allowed you to come back.
Well, it's good. It's good to be here, and when you call, I'm here.
Well, when you were here before, we
Yes.
received so many responses, so many questions about what we talked about, until I said we must come back together soon, and particularly Mr. Smith during this season.
Yes.
When in spite of the good news about unemployment dipping slightly, according to the Federal Reserve and the State Labor Department, we are experiencing a hunger crisis in our community, in addition to deep pockets of unemployment. So I thought maybe we might need to talk with you again, Mr. Smith, about this whole matter of jobs and unemployment, because the recovery is not uniform, is it?
No, it is not, unfortunately, and usually for communities of color, in particular the African American community, we are usually double the unemployment rate than whites.
And that's what it is now, I understand.
Yes, yes, it is, and so we have to begin to understand that as our community continues to recover from the challenges that we face because of the market plummeting, that there are some communities that have had a more difficult time climbing out of the challenges that we're facing economically than others. And
Let's talk about that, Mr. Smith. What are some of the factors that have resulted in a continuing recession in many portions of this county?
Well, one of the things that we have to acknowledge is what I call the economics of place. And that unfortunately...
Economics of place?
Yes. And that unfortunately, we can figure out the success opportunities for a community not by educational attainment, but just by the zip code of a community. And unfortunately now more than ever, it is a zip code that is an indicator for success more so than a person's educational attainment. And a lot of that has to do with the lack of opportunities that are found in many of the communities that we reside in, whether it be the lack of strong educational attainment opportunities from elementary school or preschool all the way up to college or post-secondary education, to the lack of transportation options to get people to employment centers that are on the northern part of our region, the lack of infrastructure, many challenges that we face in our community that play a key role in minimizing our ability to be a full contributor to our regional economy.
So the whole question of economic opportunity ties into the question of employment rates?
Yes. I mean, we have to begin the process of creating an economic inclusion agenda not only for Fulton County, but for the Metro Atlanta region.
The state.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, we know that the demographics are steadily shifting and changing in Fulton County and in parts of not only our region, but the
Yes.
state.
ARC has given us data that support your
Yes.
data. 'Cause
Yes.
I know that the partnership gives a great emphasis to research.
Yes.
But ARC has told us for some time that this region is grayer and darker.
Yes, yes, and we will have to depend on the emerging populations that are growing in our region to contribute to our local economy. They will be the ones that we would be depending on to take on the jobs that our businesses are creating in this new and emerging economy. And if we leave them behind, we're all left behind because we will have to depend on them to keep our economy moving and going.
So we need a well-trained workforce that has had an opportunity to develop skills
Yes,
in order to maintain the growth rate
yes.
that we have as a county.
Yes, and even beyond that, Commissioner Darnell, we have to begin to believe, whether we are the educational community, whether we are the private sector or government, that the certain communities that we've considered liabilities are actually assets. And so we need a shift in our mindset around how we view communities that have been left behind. And we have to begin to look at them as assets and not liabilities.
Do you believe that public policy may be a contributing factor in terms of how institutions evaluate and give value to a community? I was not aware that institutionally
Yes.
we
Yes.
we classify a community as an asset or a liability.
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, public policy is a mere reflection of our collective values. And if we value everyone, we will create public policy that is inclusive and supports everyone. If we don't consider everyone a key component of our economy, then our public policy won't reflect that. So it's because of the public policies that we have that have played a part in minimizing the ability of certain communities to realize their full potential is why we are here today. And there are many public, and it'll take public policy in order for us to get out of the challenges that we're facing.
Mr. Smith, could you give us some examples of how some communities like Mecklenburg in North Carolina and other communities in the nation have identified this economic exclusion
Yes.
factor as affecting their bottom line and some of the steps that they're taking
Yes,
to deal
yes.
with it?
So for example, I mean, you mentioned South Carolina and
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Yes,
Forgive
Charlotte,
me, in
yes,
Charlotte, yes. And the policies that they have built around developing resources.
Yes, tell us about that.
Yeah, so in Charlotte, they've actually developed an increased tax base through real estate taxes to actually take that amount of dollars and invest those dollars in challenged communities in order to bring back those communities from an economic development and from a housing development perspective. So they consider those communities of concern. And in order to bring those communities back, they understand that it requires an investment of resources in order to bring those communities back. And so they're in the process of investing those dollars that they have obtained through a fee to begin the process of investing in many of the communities that have been left behind. There's another great example in the Twin Cities
Yes.
around an initiative called the Corridors of Opportunity. One of the things that we're beginning to see in Fulton County and Metro Atlanta is this huge opportunity for redevelopment around transit stations.
Yes.
There is a huge opportunity for us to begin to redevelop, and unfortunately, for many of the stations that are ripe for development, low wealth communities reside around those areas. And so we
Yes.
have to do what we
Low
can.
income
Yeah,
communities.
low income communities. So
Yes.
what we have to do is begin the process of redeveloping those transit stations in a way that will create jobs, create affordable housing, and create opportunities for those residents. Because if we don't, when those stations are redeveloped, there's a strong possibility that those communities will get forced out. And so in the Twin Cities area, they developed an initiative called the Corridors of Opportunity.
We want to talk about
Yes.
that when we come back,
Yes.
because folks are interested in solutions.
That's right.
As well as problems. Mr. Smith, you were telling us about an approach that has been taken by government to reduce really the cost to government by not diminishing and devaluing a low-income community, but investing in strengthening that community.
Yes.
Tell us about the Twin Cities.
Yes, yes, and it is an investment not only in places but also people, and that
That's
is
the bottom
always
line,
critical.
isn't it?
Is that
Yes.
when investment happens in community, it has to take under consideration the needs of the people as well as the places. And so, in the Twin Cities community, they initiated something called the Corridors of Opportunity.
Corridors of Opportunity.
Corridors of Opportunity, where they actually leverage federal dollars and local dollars to begin the process of redeveloping those stations
around
transit stations in a
yes.
way that was more equitable and inclusive. And which was really revolutionary is that they actually leveraged the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is our ARC, actually designated dollars to invest in community-based organizations to actually help them to get engaged in educating the community and organizing the community around the various policy opportunities.
Federal policies have supported those kinds of activities for many years.
Yes, but the dollars, though, in many occasions, have been
Yes.
the pieces that have been missing. And usually what happens is that when the dollars are realized, they usually stop at the planning level. And what makes the Corridors of Opportunity approach so revolutionary is that they actually took those dollars and took it out of the hands of the planning organization, with the support of the planning organization, of course, and gave it to an intermediary organization called Nexus Community Partners. And
I
Nexus
see.
actually granted those dollars to community organizations in those communities in order to build their capacity.
What about the Community Development Block Grant Program? It has been used very, very effectively here
Yes.
in Fulton County in assisting communities
Yes.
in strengthening
Yes.
a place and people. How does that program, what is the relationship between the goal? Because millions of dollars, of course, have come.
Yes. Yes.
And so is that the kind of approach that they're taking in the Twin Cities?
Well, I think the community development block grants, of course, are dollars that come on the federal level through the state and are designated to areas that have a
Yes.
certain population size.
We've been able to use them very
Yes.
effectively here in Fulton County
Yes.
to assist in planning
Yes.
for the revitalization and the redevelopment of communities.
Yes, and they're a critical tool in the toolbox. I think the challenge is that, and as you well know, the CDBG funding has shrunk over the
yes.
years. And the
Yes.
other challenge is, and I think we're learning this in Fulton and in Atlanta and the region, that you have to begin to invest in what I call the civic infrastructure of communities.
What does that mean?
It's basically working on building the capacity of community leaders and organizations to come together and actively engage in decision making. Because if that part is not a critical component of the process, then development continues to happen to people and not with people.
You are really focusing on the decision-making process, saying that perhaps one government or one institution or two maybe could be much more effective if in our joint goal to revitalize and redevelop our communities, if we could perhaps come together
Yes, yes, and
in
leverage the
terms of
wisdom.
planning
Yes,
and
lev-
leverage all of our
Yes,
resources,
yes.
we might be more effective.
Yes, ma'am, and leverage the wisdom of the people who live in the community because they want
Yes.
change just as much as we do.
We have structures that provide for that kind of participation. But apparently, based on unemployment rates, based upon the incidence of hunger in this community, something is missing.
Yes.
It could be this whole focus that you have in your organization on doing joint
Yes.
planning,
Yes, yes,
intergovernmental, with business, with nonprofits, with government, rather than Fulton doing something and DeKalb doing something in Atlanta and United Way.
yes, yes, yes,
Maybe that's what's missing because this is a government and this is a community that has given high priority to the matter of neighborhood
yes,
development and civic participation.
yes.
But we have to deal with the effects that you talked about earlier.
Yeah, we have to deal with the effects.
We have to deal with the effects, and evidently, some adjustments apparently need to be made.
Yes.
What would you consider to be, Mrs. Smith, one of the first steps that perhaps we need to take as a community in strengthening our interdepartmental, intergovernmental relationships?
Yes. Well, I think there are a couple of things. I think internally, which is similar to King County, Washington's model,
Yes.
is to actually
King County, that's
yes,
the county I
yeah,
was trying
King
to
County,
think
yes,
of
ma'am.
earlier.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, they've been a leader in this
been a
area.
leader. They've been a
Yeah.
leader, and so I think there's a great opportunity for Fulton in particular to pass legislation that would actually incorporate a just and fair component to the comprehensive planning process.
That's interesting.
Yes, yes, which would then begin the process of encouraging more interdepartmental collaboration.
That's interesting.
Around ensuring that economic inclusion and equity outcomes actually realize themselves. You know, also I think it's really, really critical and important for us to really leverage the power of data and information
So important. isn't it?
to really lift up the where the challenges are in community. And third, but last but certainly not least, that we have to create a big table where we incorporate the community's concerns, the private sector's concerns, philanthropy.
Everybody has to be at the table.
And everybody has to have the same voice.
Yes.
And I think that is really where the challenge has been in Atlanta and in our region and in Fulton.
Don't have the same
is that
voice.
They don't have the same voice. People are at the table, but they don't have the same voice.
Some people say the table's too small. It only has 4 chairs.
Yeah, well, some
And
people do say
we might
that.
need to put a leaf
Yes,
in there.
yes, ma'am.
They still
We need
have
to.
leaves and tables.
Yeah, they do.
They say
do.
that we might need to put a leaf in there.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. You're saying that in Kings County, just as they have certain principles of good management incorporated into their planning, they've also incorporated what we call the equity goal.
Right. Yes.
So that
yes.
it is not just rhetoric,
Yes.
but that it is integrated into the total operation of the government.
Yes. Yes. And there are criteria that are developed that they assess their
Yes.
influence by, and at the end of the year they're required to develop a report so transparency realizes itself in a way that the community can now see
That's essential
where
there.
the change is happening and how they can be more supportive of the change they want to
Yes.
see.
People must participate.
Yes.
And people must know. Well, we're trying to move in that direction here at Fulton. One of the goals that has been adopted by the Board of Commissioners as part of our strategic plan is that all people will be self-sufficient.
Wonderful.
And that's a goal. But I hear you saying now that it has to be perhaps, and that's our plan, that these goals will be integrated
Yes.
into the day-to-day operation of departments. Mr. Smith, we don't ever have enough time. They've given me another signal, but we're going to explore the Kings County approach.
Yes.
We're going to explore the Charlotte approach because with the resources we have, of course, that's what budget is all about. We
Yes.
can look and see how we can use existing resources more effectively to deal with this problem. Thank you again
No,
so
thank you.
very, very
Thank
much.
you. And we will be here to support you and the commission in any way we can.
Thank you so much. I'll be back in a moment with closing comments. It is clear from the record that childhood hunger is on the increase in the nation, the state, and in Fulton County. It is a problem in Fulton cities. It's a problem in Fulton suburbs. In government, we responded to the hunger crisis in this community with revised policies and programs, such as the summer food program at Fulton Parks for children who may not receive meals during the summer months. However, during this post-Thanksgiving period, all of us in government and in the community may need to take a closer look at the underlying causes of hunger, which we have discussed today: poverty and inequality in this, the largest and richest county in this state. That's all the time we have for today's conversation. Until next time, stay strong. To learn more about today's conversation, contact me at 404-612-8222. That's 404-612-8222. You can also email me at emma.darnell@fultoncountyga.gov. Visit us online at emmadarnell.com or connect with us on Facebook or Twitter.